Let's delve into some fiction from a friend of mine who's no longer with us right now. I'll hopefully see him again someday. He's a good friend of mine and a very, very well-known writer. I'll tell you about him as we go into a little relaxation for Wordsmith Wednesday. Let's hear from the Outer Limits control voice.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission. If we wish to make it louder, we will bring up the volume. If we wish to make it softer, we will tune it to a whisper. We will control the horizontal. We will control the vertical. We can roll the image, make it flutter. We can change the focus to a soft blur, or sharpen it to crystal clarity. For the next hour, sit quietly and we will control all that you see and hear. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your television set. You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind to the outer limits.
Thank you, control voice. Excellent stuff. Tom Tanisco out there in Vancouver. Say hello to you, my friend. Hope everything's going great. And Brad Wright, thank you for being such a good guy when I was up there in Vancouver, in Burnaby, I should say, at the Bridge Studios. That was a lot of fun. It was wonderful to hike through Lynn Canyon. Man, what a great place that was. They give you the cowbell so that you can make noise so the cougars won't attack you. Like, oh, okay. I'm not scared at all. Everything's fine. Everything's cool. Well, everybody, welcome to this segment of former Star Trek writing fellow. And this will go out on YouTube. This will go out on Rumble as well. Check out the channel over there. We've got a lot of good content already. We really just started up with a couple episodes a week with writers on Wednesday and then short stories and things like that on Fridays. And so this is Wordsmith Wednesday. And I want to tell you about not so much the work of a person, but a person. My friend Dallas Mayr. Dallas passed away about 7 years ago, and he had cancer. Almost beat it, came back and got him. He smoked a lot. And Dallas was one of the nicest guys and wrote some of the most horrific and brutal fiction you will ever read. It's beautifully written. It's incredibly powerful. And you will not forget these books, but they're difficult sometimes. And so I want to show you a picture of my friend Dallas Mayr, and I don't want to get choked up too much because he really gave me some wonderful advice, and he was just such a kind person. And everyone was always very surprised. We met because I would go down to something called Camp Nikon, which was down at Roger Williams College in Rhode Island, just on the coast. Beautiful spot. And now it's Roger Williams University. And a bunch of New England-based, East Coast-based mostly, dark fiction and horror writers would go and gather together. F. Paul Wilson, Tom Monteleone, Chris Golden, a lot of folks would go there and meet up, hang out, and have a great time. And they'd talk books, they'd have book sales, they'd have games and darts and softball and all sorts of wonderful stuff, a talent show and quiz shows, and it was just wonderful. It was great. So I would go every year, and it was in July, and we'd have a barbecue and stuff. It was fantastic. We'd talk our favorite stories and how some of them had things turned into movies and things, or TV shows and that sort of stuff. And so Dallas... I had heard about Jack Ketchum, and that's his writer's name. That's his pseudonym for books. And so I got to meet him, and he was the most soft-spoken, kindest guy. You could talk to him for hours, and he would never raise his voice, just was so nice. And he's not with us now. His writing is with us, but I know that obviously he would want his work to continue, but I want to remember Dallas first off because he was so nice. He gave me some of the best advice in writing I've ever received. I think one of my stories is right next to one of his stories in one of the Chiral Mad collections that Michael Bailey put together. And he actually co-wrote a story with Michael, which was a terrific one. It was one of the last ones that Dallas wrote. And so Dallas, he went by a pseudonym, the name Jack Ketchum. And Jack Ketchum, actually, I didn't know. I was like, where'd you get that name, Jack Ketchum? That's like a really cool name. It sounds like a detective. What is it? He goes, oh, it's actually an old Western outlaw. He was like a railroad thief. So I looked it up. I want to read it to you, and I want to show you first the background. Here's the picture over at Fantastic Fiction of Dallas. That's Jack Ketchum, Dallas Mayr, M-A-Y-R. And you can look him up at Fantastic Fiction. And this is the thumbnail that they give you about his short introduction to the start of his career. He did much more after this. Jack Ketchum is the pseudonym for a former actor, teacher. Again, he was the English tutor to Lady Gaga, just because he was friends with her parents. They own a restaurant on his block, and he became very good friends with them. He's actually in one of her videos. He's sitting in front of a mirror. No, she's sitting in front of a mirror and he's standing behind her. It's a black and white video. I can't remember what it is. He was a literary agent to one of the biggest writers of all time, lumber salesman and soda jerk. He is also a former flower child and baby boomer who figures that in 1956, Elvis, dinosaurs, and horror probably saved his life. His first novel, Off Season, an updating of the true story, the Sonny Bean story, prompted the Village Voice to publicly scold its publisher in print for publishing what they called violent pornography. He has always wondered what they would think of The Girl Next Door. His short story, The Box, won a 1994 Bram Stoker Award from the Horror Writers Association. Now, the Bram Stoker Awards sort of been watered down a lot. As Tom Monteleone pointed out, they got woke and they started to reserve spaces for people that they said had, or groups of people that they said had been underrepresented in the past, which then just insults and causes more victimization of people who should be in there, but they're not the right type anymore. Just like what was done, they thought, to other people in the past. It's just a continuing vicious cycle. But Dallas wasn't involved with any of that stuff. He was just a straight up guy. He had this classic look. You can see the photograph of him there. And I'll do more on Jack later. I'll have an expanded edition on Jack, maybe a half hour on Dallas, because he had a look that just everybody thought, wow, he looks like such a tough guy, you know. And, you know, he really did. He had this, you know, chiseled, very tough looking look, but he was the nicest guy. And so I want to discuss a few of the things that he had released, as you'll see there right at the start, with his first story called Off Season. Now, there are 3 books essentially that are involved with this. And there's one of them has been turned into a movie, The Woman. And now he co-wrote with Lucky McGee. That's sort of a little bit longer than a novella. It's excellent. And it all involves the same characters. I'm not going to tell you too much, but it has to do, Off Season has to do with some people who go hunting up in Maine, and they encounter some people who are living way out in the backwoods of Maine who you might say they're not tame. They're maybe not just eating animals. And it is quite a wild ride. And from that, he wrote Offspring, and then afterwards, he and Lucky McGee did The Woman. And I think if you don't mind reading something brutal, read Off Season, read Offspring, and then read The Woman and see how he brings it all around. Because The Woman is a great ending to the trilogy. It's just great. But the book I want to really discuss is the one called The Girl Next Door, which is probably his most famous one. If you watch YouTube videos, you'll probably see it on a list of some of the most brutal books ever written, some of the most shocking books ever written. It's usually in the top 2 or 3. It's one of the best books I've ever read. I read this book flying to Las Vegas with my sister and my niece to see Muse, and I could not stop reading it. And it is a story. I'll just tell you a little bit about Dallas's story, The Girl Next Door. I highly recommend it, but be ready, okay? It's a story told from the perspective of a man who's maybe in his 40s or 50s, looking back at his childhood, that seems to be something like the 1950s, sort of idyllic, a small country, sort of suburban area, someplace in the Midwest. And it's about him as a boy and his other friends. And there are two sisters who lose their mother and father. They become orphaned, and they move to town. One of the girls is very badly injured. She can't really get around. She's sort of stuck in this house, and their aunt brings them in to care for them. The aunt is a single mom, and she's kind of a wild woman. Like, she'll bring the kids in and, give them cigarettes and stuff like that, these boys and stuff like that. And she's kind of, she's kind of a weird lady. And in the course of the story, I'm going to tell you, it gets very, very brutal. But she sort of forms a group out of these boys, and she takes out her anger on one of the girls and basically tortures this girl. And some of the boys, she gets them to do some of these things. She uses her manipulation on the boys to get the boys to do terrible things to this girl. And it's about this man who, as a child, was part of this group of friends. And the question is he going to be part of it, or is he going to fight back? Is he going to do something to help? And one of the girls can't leave the house. The other girl does go out, and she tries to do things and go to school and everything. And she's getting more and more psychologically messed up because of what's being done to her. And she can't leave because she can't get her sister out. Her sister basically can't walk. She can't get her out. And it's the dilemma is just unbelievable. Now, here's a bit of a spoiler. And I guess a lot of people know this when they go into it. What I didn't know, I couldn't stop reading this book. We got to the hotel in Vegas and I kept reading the book. And I have never had an experience like that. I couldn't stop reading Dallas's book. And I knew Dallas. I have read some of Dallas's stuff. This is just like nitro fuel. You cannot stop reading this book. And it's beautifully written. It's got a sense to it of melancholy, but there's something else there. Memories of idyllic situations, and yet a person and some kids, trouble. It's not it's the dark underbelly of this idyllic town that you saw in Blue Velvet, that sort of thing. Here's what's really going on in every small town in America, that sort of thing. Now, this is a specific situation with a specific person and a crazy woman who's doing terrible things to these kids, these girls. And what are the psychologies of these boys, the different types of boys that are more susceptible to this woman's manipulations and things like that. It's his ability to be able to control himself in handling the psychology of this and get through this story. What you discover, and I'll tell you, and I guess I should have known at the beginning, I didn't know until the end, it's based on a true story. Like, this really happened. So I asked Dallas about it later. I was like, Dallas, I said, I didn't know until I finished the book. What he said, oh yeah, he said, I came across it in news articles. And he said, and I have to tell you, there were times when I had to get up. I couldn't sit at the typewriter. I had to stop, because between the research on this and then writing this, he said, it was devastating. It was devastating. And I'm telling you, you have to be prepared. And if you're not that kind of person, steer clear. But believe me, this is written by a guy with such heart that he puts you through something in that book. And it makes sense that it's on the list, typically in the top 2 or 3 of the most brutal novels you will ever read. I mean, this makes Lord of the Flies look like a cartoon. Okay. And it's real. That's all I'm going to say. The Girl Next Door, one of the greatest books I've ever read by one of the best men I've ever met. So there you go. Good guy. It's crazy. You meet people and then they leave you with something. I'm just remembering just a few years ago, just hanging out hanging out in the dining room at the college, you know, having ice cream or something, hanging out with Dallas. Good guy. And if you do get a chance, look up Jack Ketchum, Lady Gaga. You'll probably find him in the video. It's a black and white video. When I do the larger segment, I'll get it all researched and I'll put it all together for you. But I hope to recommend that you read Jack Ketchum stuff. And just to let you know, the name Jack Ketchum comes from, I looked it up, it's Thomas Black Jack Ketchum, a notorious American outlaw and train robber from the late 19th and early 20th centuries. He and his gang terrorized parts of Arizona, New Mexico, and West Texas. His criminal career ended with his botched execution by hanging after being convicted of attempted train robbery. And there are books about him, the Black Jack Ketchum. You can look up him as well. He was born in 1863 and died in 1901. So there you go. So rest in peace, Dallas. I hope I did you right, man. You really helped me out, man. And I will continue working on my fiction in your honor. And I know Michael Bailey loved you, and everybody loved you, man. You're a good guy. So remember, everybody, if you want to get a great book, and I'll hold it up for you sometime later, but The Girl Next Door, it's remarkably good. You can't even believe it. And again, you got to be ready for it, though. All right. So listen, I'm going to wrap things up tonight. And thanks for hanging out at the beginning of the show. We have a lot of viewers right now. And do remember that if you want to see the Liberty Conspiracy work, it's Monday through Friday on X at Gard Goldsmith. That's very hardcore, libertarian, voluntarist, anarchist perspective with knowledge of the Constitution to be able to remind people of what the rules that the government says are. But again, with the acknowledgement that nobody can write a contract and then force it on you. So the Constitution is just, I didn't sign it and you didn't sign it. But we look at contemporary issues, we break them apart, try to derive lessons about economics and philosophy and, play some punk rock here and there, that sort of thing. And then I've added to it because I did script writing out in Los Angeles and in Vancouver. And my parallel love, I won't say my first love, but my parallel love is fiction writing. And so supporting the principles and the fiction writing go hand in hand. I also like to promote really good work, and I write fiction myself. And so you can find some of my novellas. Those are over on Amazon. You can look up Fishing. That's very brutal. So watch out for Fishing, but it's a good story. It's really good. My first release was called Bite. That was released over in England first. That's sort of a takeoff of the Kolchak, the Night Stalker sort of thing. It happens in Las Vegas. And then there's one called Wall, which is about the Great Wall of China and two researchers in 1966 who have to try to get into Red China through Hong Kong because they have a piece of a wall that they think antedates the Great Wall of China by thousands and thousands of years, and that inside the mortar that's attached to the stones is human blood. So they go to investigate it. So you can check that out. So there's Bite, there's Fishing, and there's Wall. Everything is all tied together. All those stories are actually all connected. I've got novels that are be coming out very soon. And the sequel to Bite is called Flight. Bite is only like 60-some pages long, but Flight is about 400 pages long. And it continues the story of Bite. And I think I might have even mentioned Dallas in there and thanked him. And it hasn't been published yet. I actually got a contract for Flight to be published, but the publishing company saw my libertarian material online, and they said, "Oh, are you going to go by a pseudonym? Are you going to separate your name, your writing name, from your political economics work?" And I said, "Why would I do that? This is my name. This is what my parents gave me. That's stupid." So I declined the contract, and it hasn't been published. So we're going to be starting up a publishing company called Liberty Conspiracy Publishing. We're going to raise that. And I want to thank everybody who's been here supporting Liberty Conspiracy. The whole Russian team here works really hard. And it's been a great group of people. Sometimes you get delayed in what you want to do. And if you're lucky enough, you can live to continue doing things, or you learn things along the way. And I've learned a lot. And it looks like I still have the opportunity to get this fiction out. And that's a nice treat as well. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Please spread the word about former Star Trek writing fellow. We're going to start talking script writing. I'll show you what it was like inside the writing studio, inside of the writing room at Star Trek Voyager, and tell you a little bit about working at the Outer Limits, meeting Joe Stefano, who created the Outer Limits and wrote the script for Psycho, and a lot of other things that have to do with script writing. And we'll talk prose fiction as well. So with that in mind, once more, I'll just mention, God bless you, Jack Ketchum, Dallas Mayr, good guy. And I know that Lady Gaga loved you too. Everybody knows that too, man. That's super cool. So thanks, everybody. Have a great night. I hope you all are absolutely blessed in your lives. We'll see you tomorrow for more Liberty Conspiracy. And on Friday, we'll do some short stories. It's going to be great.